Okay, we're here today standing in front of Shell Refinery, back there in front of Shell Chargers. So we're going to tell you about BP and their catastrophic losses they've achieved over the last year. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but the oil and gas industry is really suffering at the moment. And in answer to the losses that they're seeing, something like 13 billion down to 8 billion in just 1 year, they've decided to just shelve everything they're doing to do with renewable. If it's planned, it's now scrapped. If it wasn't planned, it won't ever happen. If it's started, it'll be stopped. It's chaos out there. I'm Dave. Welcome to Dave Takes It On. There's an awful lot of people out there forecasting the end of EVs, end of EV charging and everything. But the big headlines at the moment, certainly on the BBC, is all about oil and gas. And they're really struggling. Profits are down, sales are down, everything's down. Shell in particular, they're just getting caught out at the moment in Kenya, I believe it is, with they're supposed to be doing an awful lot to clean up their act, and they've been caught out. They haven't been spending anything on cleaning up the massive pollution they've been causing. But this headline news today is BP. And BP has seen a massive drop in profits from their oil and the gas, and a huge drop in the profits from their refineries. And that's quite fitting because we're stood in front of Shell Refinery today, which is one of the largest in the UK. Everything is being dropped, all the profits are going, and this should come as no surprise to anyone, particularly not BP, because it was only 12 months ago that they produced their report about the outlook for 2024. They released a report at the beginning of 2024. I did a video on that in 2024, and there's a link to that one down below in 2024, and it said our sales are dropping, our refineries are dropping, renewable energy is taking over, we need to be investing in renewable energy. So today, what we're finding is, oops, their profits are dropping, their sales are dropping, everything is dropping, but the renewables now, the promised investment has now been shelved. The amount of money they're spending has now been cut. They've cancelled an awful lot of projects that they were investing in, and they've now decided that the profits they would get from renewables, they're not quite where they should be compared to the profits they get from oil or gas or from the refineries. So they're just abandoning everything to do with renewables. New projects will not start. June last year, they cancelled all of their offshore wind. A lot of stuff they've now sold out or formed joint ventures to share the load. And they're going to pile back into oil and gas exploration, oil and gas searching and refinery capacity as well, and try and get the oil and gas going like it used to. Well, when we look at what's actually happening out there, this should not come as a big shock to the oil and gas industry. Let's look at cars first of all, and we're standing in front of a car charging. There's a row of cars charging there. The forecast for this year, for the world, this is not the UK, or not picking off a single country like Germany, which has got its own particular problems, or New Zealand, which has got its own problems, but the world as a whole. About 25% of all the cars in the world are likely, new car sales are likely to be EVs this year, 2025. And in plain English, 25% of the new car sales this year will not be using any petrol at all. Not now, not ever again. And that is not a surprise. Those cars, like the one charging here and those over there, will never again use petrol. Everyone that we speak to, and we've just spoken to this owner, had this one for 2 months, loves it as a car. We speak to lots of these drivers. They love them as cars. They will not go back to petrol until the day nobody any longer makes EVs. It's not going to happen. So the oil and gas industry knew that this was going to happen. The 2024 report from BP said this was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen. Their market for petrol and diesel is already shrinking. They knew this. It's not a surprise. Well, let's have a look at the grid. The grid today is on many days now half renewable. That's it. Previously, 5-10 years ago, it wasn't. 20-30 years ago, it definitely wasn't. But today, it's over half renewable. That means that the gas turbines, and they've still got some old oil generators as well, they are not working as hard as they used to. They're not using the same amount of fossil fuel as they used to. This is in their report, the BP report 2024. So the grid in the UK and in Europe and in China and in America, everywhere, is not the same as it was just a couple of years ago, 5 years ago and 10 years ago. And this is all in their report. So for BP to stand up today and say, oh my goodness, our profits are down, we're going to have to make rapid changes. What do they do for a living? It beats me how they can do a report January last year and say our sales are going to be dropping, demand for petrol and diesel is going to be dropping, demand on the grid is going to be dropping, and then a year later go, oh my goodness, our demand is dropping, we need to do more oil and gas exploration. Beats me, some of these people. So this has all been forecast for an awful long time. Now, in addition to that, you've now got the UK and Europe and China, all of them going towards this net zero 2050, going towards this EV mandate for 2030 or 2035, which means BP and Shell, it's going to get worse. More and more and more cars going on the road are now going to be EVs. And let me give you some breaking news. These EVs will never use petrol or diesel ever in their entire lives. And most of the people, and we're going to talk to some more of these in a minute, these people, when we talk to them, love them, great, best thing we've ever done, should have done it earlier. They're never going to go back to petrol because an awful lot of people, these here today, we'll talk to some of them and some of them will not be able to charge at home. They'll be here paying whatever price it is. But a lot of them do charge at home. And they use these like a motorway service station for petrol cars. When you're out, if you've got no alternative, just top up here and off you go. But an awful lot of people don't use these at all. So let's just look at a realistic situation. BP and Shell, you're going to have to do more and more and more and more desperate things to try and boost up your turnover, your profit, your revenue, to try and keep where you were a few years ago. One of the things you can do, just scrap all your renewable stuff. You're doing that already. Shell, why are they here? Well, we've guessed that these were in the pipeline, they were in stock already, they'd already bought them maybe a year or 2 years ago, planning permission was granted, so they may as well put them here and see if anyone's daft enough to use them. That's my guess. But you're unlikely to see new applications going in for new charger locations. Current wind farms that are planned are going to be shelved. An awful lot of stuff by the oil giants is going to be shelved. So it's a simple equation now. BP, which prided themselves on its green credentials, green badge, is actually turning out to be anything but green.